to Empower Your Thinking, the podcast that inspires and fuels your journey to unlocking your full potential. Join host C.T. Johnson on the voyage of self-discovery as he uncovers the keys to a more empowered and fulfilled life. Tune in and elevate your thinking today.
Hello, Cerebral citizens. Welcome to the Empower Your Thinking podcast with yours truly, C.T. Johnson. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery as we uncover the keys to a more empowered and fulfilled life. Your active participation is what makes this podcast a success. If you're finding value in our conversations, I encourage you to take a moment to rate and subscribe to the podcast. Your support helps me reach more listeners, and I'd love for you to be part of the Empower Your Thinking community. Now, I'm telling you, we're going to have a powerful, insightful, and empowering podcast on today because I am not alone. This is the first time within the new year, 2025, that I have a guest with me. It's been some time, actually, since we've had a guest on the podcast, and I've been promising you all that I was going to have guests this year. And so I am excited to have a dear friend that is the first guest for the year of 2025, though we are in June of 2025. Nonetheless, I have kept my promise, and I have who I will introduce shortly. Again, a dear friend. Today, we're going to embark upon a series topic entitled From Scarcity to Strategy, Rethinking Your Money Mindset. That's good. I know you all are just salivating mentally, waiting on us to get into the crooks and the crevices of this series. So that's what we're going to tackle, to discuss, to uncover from scarcity to strategy, rethinking your money mindset. And particularly in today's episode, we're going to deal with from scarcity to stewardship, reframing how we see money. We're confronting one of the most misunderstood and yet most influential forces in our lives, which is money. Not just how we make it, but here is the caveat. It's how we think about it. Because truth be told, for many of us, the real issue isn't our income. It is our mindset. And my very special guest is going to help us unpack and unravel that truth along with many, many others. So without further ado, joining me on today's podcast is a dear friend of mine who brings not only financial expertise, but biblical clarity. Justin L. Enlow. He can tell you what the L stands for. He is a writer. He's a strategist and a thought leader whose work spans economic literacy and faith-based empowerment. So empower your thinking, family. Help me welcome my dear friend and brother, Justin Enlow, to the podcast. Justin, welcome.
Hello.
Well, you finally made it. You finally made it.
Yeah.
You finally made it. I'm telling you, God answers prayer. But I'm excited to have you with me on today. And we're going to do at least 2 episodes, family, because there's so much that Justin has to share, much wisdom, much insight. And so the first thing I want to do, Justin, is give you an opportunity to greet the Empower Your Thinking podcast family. And then we're going to delve right into why we are here on today.
Well, first, thank you for taking the time to go ahead and let me be a part of this incredible movement that you're doing. I think when it comes to empowering your thinking, decisions come forth, So I'm not going to get into as far as the topic of discussion there, but a little bit about myself. My name is Justin. I'm not going to tell you what the L means.
I'll tell y'all later. I'll talk to his wife.
It doesn't mean loser.
I get it.
But my name is Justin Enlow. I am Wow. The first thing I like to tell people is I'm a problem solver. And the way that I go about problem solving is I help people think about what they're trying to accomplish, what their goals are, and I put it through a financial strategy. And this has been an experience where I've helped with entrepreneurs. I've helped organizations. I'm getting into fund management. So if you have if you have a portfolio and there's a certain outcome that you're looking for, I'm the one that's putting together, as far as the capital stack, I'm putting together the strategy, so to speak, that's going to help you reach as far as your goals as an organization for financial health. And just talking on the topic of financial health, it's not just for organizations, it's for people. They both work synonymously.
Now say that again. See, I'm telling you guys, you're going to love this episode with Justin. Say that again. You said
financial health is not just for organizations and businesses. It's just for individuals as well.
For individuals as well. Lord, are your finances healthy? Are you economically healthy? That's a good question.
There's so much I could add to that, but let's go.
All right, go ahead. I didn't want to what's the word? I didn't want to interrupt your intro, but that was such a powerful statement that financial health is not for institutions or organizations alone. And most times when we talk about finance or economic success or development, most times their thought process is in regards to institutions, organizations, but finances run the world, whether you are a one member household or you're the leader of a Fortune 500 company. Absolutely. So I just thought that statement did not need to be passed by.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. For sure. I mean, if you think about it, like the Greek, and when you look at the term economics, it's come from the Greek word oikonomist. And what that refers to is a household. So everything that we talk about from economics, whether you're talking about the household of a nation, the household of a business, it goes back down to as far as how is one person making decisions about the resources, the money, and the tools that they have to be able to reach their goals. So we're going to align that all together. That is something I'm very passionate about. Aside from that, I'm also a husband. I'm also a father of 5 phenomenal children.
5. Did y'all hear that?
Yeah.
He has sired 5 children.
Got a whole basketball team. Let's go. I keep things really simple. If you want to know something about Justin Enlow, it's either his faith or his finances or his family. 3 F's.
And I can vouch for that. I have met his family. Their family have become my family, my wife and I. And speaking of your 5 children, you just had your 5th. So yes. He is a new father for the 5th time. Justine Enlow. And how old is Justine now?
She's just a little over 3 months.
3 months. So he is again, brand new father for the 5th time. Not a novice. He's just starting over again. He and his lovely wife. Well, listen. Again, thank you for being here. I'm honored honored that you took time to be with me and accepted the invitation. So let's jump right into this as we move forward into helping our audience understand the necessity in having the right mindset, understanding and comprehension when it comes to finances. So I want you, as we begin this dialogue today, to share with us about the 2 most recent articles that you've written, from sitting on the islands of poverty to building the pillars of prosperity. The title alone is breathtaking. And then the second article, Understanding Tariffs and What They Mean for Your Personal Finances. And audience, I'm going to have in our show notes where you can go and download these powerful and insightful articles written by Justin so that you can bring yourself into a greater understanding of what we are just scratching the surface of in these 2 episodes. But share with us in regards to those articles.
Yeah. So the first one, that was in relation to as far as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Of course, when we think about the latter part of his life, he really was focusing on the equity, as far as like, where do we as a people stand in terms of financial equity? He realizes that you can have a vision, you can have a dream, but there has to be a catalyst. And part of that catalyst to help us rise in our nation is how we approach as far as our financial matters. So in that particular article, I spent a lot of time really just kind of reminiscing, and really, if he was living today, what would those words look like? And then when we think about some of the practical aspects of that article, really what we're trying to convey is, saying just, the thinking, the mindset about how we're approaching money. Not only as far as to how we're approaching money, but we're also looking about it from as far as the standpoint of what are the practical strategies so that we can ensure that we are able to make sustainable financial decisions and that we're able to reach our goals.
Okay.
The second article, well, we all see it, right? We always are listening to it in some form or fashion, whether it's on social media, whether it's on the news, whether it's the neighbor down the street or in the barbershop or salon. What the world is going on with all these tariffs?
Right.
What exactly is a tariff?
I was about to ask that question. So since you asked it, well, you stated it.
Right.
But answer that, because I'm sure I have listeners that know the word, especially those of us, I almost said those of us, especially who live in the U.S., but that's a word. Tariffs does not apply or is restricted to the U.S.
Right.
Other nations also have tariffs and all of that. But yes, explain. I don't want you to lose your train of thought in regards to where you were going, but explain to those who may not know exactly what are tariffs.
So tariffs are a tool that countries use back and forth with each other. And when I say the back and forth, we're talking about imports. So everything that you bring into a nation, and exports, everything that goes out. And when I say everything, we're talking about goods, services, produce, all the things that you can make money on. That's what we're talking about. Now, every country's always doing an exchange. Now, when there is the threat of economic wars, right? A tool that, when it comes to money, people have to understand it's about leverage. So if I'm taxing you, which is what a tariff essentially is, it's an additional tax that you have to pay in order to bring your value goods, the things that are of value to you, to be brought into our country, you got to pay an additional tax for it.
Okay.
And right now, what we're experiencing, whether it's from China, whether it's from Iran or wherever, we are doing global business with, what's happening is those tariffs, when a country declare and as we've noticed, when there's executive orders that are being written and tariffs are now being placed on it, of course, what's going to happen is that the other country is going to respond in retaliation. So you hear of retaliation tariffs. Well, those retaliation tariffs, those are the things that impact our goods, the things that we bring home. Okay. Right. So your iPhone, for example, the food that you eat, anything that you purchase, essentially it's just additional taxes on services and goods that are exchanged between two countries. And there is, I can't wait till we get to the article. I can't wait till we actually get more into that, because and especially when you all get a chance to read the article, because it also lets you know about the history, because this isn't the first time that tariffs have occurred. Right. This is something that occurs, you're saying, more frequently than what we notice. It's just that now we're taking it to there's another level being attached to it because of the advent of social media, the news, and everybody, wanting to know what's going on with their money. Right. This has occurred several times throughout, as far as the United States, going back to as far as the 1900s. And in the article, I talk about the different tariffs that was implemented, that was implemented by as far as the United States government. And then from there, what was the impact to it and how did we go through it? Because it's important to know, since it existed, yes, they were implemented, but we still got through it. Right. So what does that mean about as far as my personal financial decisions and what strategies should I be following? And that article talks about that.
All right. Wonderful. Now I want to encourage you all who might be thinking, okay, Prophet, this discussion is somewhat too deep for me. I don't understand all of this discussion about tariffs. I just want to know how to make more money. Well, the point of this particular episode is to help you develop a right understanding that aligns primarily with God's initial intention for wealth and prosperity. Because, of course, all of you who follow my ministry, you know, Empower Your Thinking is about primarily being empowered in regards to your relationship with Christ, but also in regards to every area and aspect of life. We want to be empowered, not just spiritually, but we want to be empowered in every aspect, because Jesus died that we might have an abundant life.
Yes.
He died that we might have life, rather, and life more abundantly. So I want to encourage you to stick with us. All right. Because I promise you that if you stick with us, you're going to be informed, educated, you're going to be enlightened, and how you currently perceive money is going to change for the better, because you're going to receive, from God's perspective, the intention.
Yes.
If that makes sense. So I want to encourage you all to stick with us, because the truth be told, I don't care how much money you have, no one is going to decline more.
Right.
And God is not going to entrust us with more if we have not proven to him that we can rightly steward what we currently have. So now let's get into some specific questions. So and you can inform us which article specifically this concept that we're going to address is mentioned in.
Yes.
But you've written about the concept of drifting in financial autopilot.
Yes.
So I want you to inform us, what does that look like? First of all, what does that statement entail? Drifting in financial autopilot. And what does that look like practically? What does that look like practically in people's everyday lives? And why is it dangerous?
So, wow. Okay. Let's make sure that we can do this in time here. So when it comes to the idea of drifting into financial autopilot, let's just go ahead and think about it like this. When you woke up this morning, when you went to work, when you went home, did you think about how you were driving? Did you think about the strategy that you was going to take to get from point A to point B? You most likely didn't. What about as far as putting on your clothes? You automatically know, put one leg in, put one leg out. But do you actually take time to really determine, well, why do I just use my right leg? How can I just use my left leg? Are you taking time to really consider your thoughts, right? That's just thinking, right? Now let's apply that same concept in terms of being, really thin slicing our thought process and our thought patterns. Let's take that to the realm in our finances. Why did you spend money on McDonald's today?
I was hungry.
Right. Okay. Why did you, put your card in for, when it comes to your Apple purchases? Why do you spend money? Right? Financial autopilot is when you're making financial decisions and you're not taking account of your thoughts. So when you start the idea of drifting, well, think about as far as the idea of driving. When you start drifting and you don't have control of the vehicle, you can end up in some form of a crash.
Absolutely.
You can end up in as far as hurt.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, the way that this translates financially is you can end up in debt. Right. You can end up bankruptcy.
Right.
You can end up missing a credit card payment.
Right.
How that impacts your credit score is tremendously. Absolutely. So the idea of financial drifting into financial autopilot is when we're not taking account of the decisions that we're making financially. When it comes to making, as far as when we make purchases, why is it that every time that you go into a Target or Walmart and you go in, I'm going to go and get this one item, and then as soon as you walk out the store, you got those items plus $200 left out of your pocket.
Absolutely.
What happened?
Absolutely.
You were drifting and you made financial decisions without actually taking account of why you made those decisions.
So what I hear you saying is that we need to be more intentional
about
our spending.
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't give a purpose to every dollar, somebody else is. Again, I mentioned earlier, it's a game of leverage, right? Just so when we talk about tariffs, it's a game of leverage. So if you don't have leverage, I like this as far as your podcast, Empower Your Thinking, because if you think about it, if you're not empowering your thinking, then you're not the one empowered.
Absolutely.
And if you're not the one empowered, somebody else is.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to as far as our money, or how we spend money, or our financial decisions, it's very important that we have, so that we're exercising some form of discourse or mastery or expertise about our money and how it's going in and how it's going out.
Wow. So now, what is, other than some of the things you mentioned, debt, lowering your credit score, what are some other dangers of drifting in financial autopilot that most people don't think about?
Well, let's think about your understanding of how money works. Okay, you have a piece of dollar, but what gives value to that piece of dollar that's in your pocket? Why do you go to work every single day? Let's get real granular. Let's get real detailed. When it comes to as far as the money, how is we receive this, but do we know why it exists? Or do we know where it originates from? Where we have to understand what money is and how we're supposed to have a relationship with it. You ever been in a relationship that's just on accident? Or you just, or you've been in a relationship where, you're more roommates than you are anything else.
Right.
Well, let's again take that same mindset in terms of how are you determining the relationship that you have with money? Is it a tool, or is it kind of what we're talking about babies, right? Is it a soothing mechanism? Right.
Yeah, for many people it is.
Is it? What is it to you? What is it to you? If you're not thinking about those thoughts, then again, saying you are going to find yourself where there's going to be more time, more month than there is money. You got to give it a purpose. You have to have goals with it. Just like when it comes to dieting or anything in life where there's forward motion, forward thinking, we have to bring those same concepts to money. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's not the case.
That's very true. I love the term that you used, relationship. Many people, unfortunately, don't take the time to assess their relationship with money.
Yes.
And not only don't they take time to assess it, if you don't take time to assess it, then you are not aware of what's transpiring.
Yes.
When it comes to your finances.
Absolutely.
When it comes to your economics. And not only that, it's not only important that we assess our relationship with money, but those who are parents ensure that we are steering our children in the right direction when it comes to their relationship with money.
Yes.
And now, I almost said this is somewhat of a sidebar, but it's not, because it's all connected and related. As you mentioned, you have 5 kids, and I want you to, your youngest boys are how old?
11 and 7.
11 and 7. Now, I'm telling you, this man, and not only him, but his wife as well, but this man, talk about training a child up in the way that they should go. When it comes to financial literacy,
yes,
your boys at age 7 and 11, in my own interaction with them, are more financially literate than adults. So just help our audience right here in regards to informing them of the importance, the grave importance of, once you yourself have a right understanding and the right framework,
absolutely,
once you're in the right frame of mind as it pertains to money, how important is it to make sure that you are passing that understanding and that consciousness down to your children, ensuring that they are financially sound, literate, educated? And at what age do you recommend parents start doing that?
So again, this goes back to our understanding of what money is. Mm-hmm. So I introduced my wife and I, we started introducing the idea of money in the terms of understanding risk and reward.
Okay.
If you touch the stove, or if you're being disobedient, that's a risk. Mm-hmm. If you're making the decision with that risk, these are the consequences. Mm-hmm. If you're making decisions and you're being obedient, you're going to get the reward, right? Mm-hmm. So we introduced the idea of risk and reward really early as far as with the kids, in terms of as far as the discipline, because again, when it comes to any type of, that's the reason why they call it discipline. You have to be disciplined with the very resources that you're given. That's what it means to be a steward, right? But we start off with as far as just the practical understanding with that, but then we don't stop there, right? Okay. We actually start, say from there, when it comes to the risk reward, then we start empowering them as far as to make decisions. Because the sooner that you can allow your children to make decisions, and so that they can determine their risk tolerance, or, as far as what they're looking for in terms of rewards, then when it comes to the idea of money, they already have experience. So if I spend all my money right now, well, guess what? I have to wait till the next paycheck. Right. Okay. Well, we don't want our kids to live paycheck to paycheck. Right. So we instill upon them as far as this, just the we condition the minds and thinking, like, instead of thinking about it from instant gratification, what if you were to delay this gratification? Yeah. And it goes back to the risk reward. If you spend your money now, you're not going to have money later on. Right. And if that's the case, guess what? It's your money. Yeah. If you don't have it, you guess what?
That's on you.
You don't get mom and daddy's cut.
Right.
You got to get it. Right.
I love it.
So we make sure that we have their financial responsibility, and that just comes with chores. Mm-hmm. That comes, again, the decision making. And then of course, like my favorite game, Monopoly people,
in case you were wondering.
I love that game because it's a proper opportunity for us to have conversations about money, in terms of how we negotiate and things of that sort. I mean, we have to make conversations about money healthy conversations. Right. We have to make that normalized in our families. And if we're able to
normalize it.
There you go. If we're able to normalize those conversations, again, before they're even 18, they already understand risk. They already understand reward. They understand investing. They understand saving. They understand budgeting. They understand as far as purpose. They understand those concepts. So by the time that they're 18, and I can speak on this because I have an 18-year-old and I have a 20-year-old, right? Our 20-year-old for a season managed the household finances.
Did y'all hear that? An 18-year-old managed the household finances. How many of you would allow your 18-year-old to manage?
Right.
But obviously, you and your wife felt comfortable because of the training and the education that you all bestowed.
And it also helps. My wife is an accountant, so she was able to bring forth more of the bookkeeping and more of the more granular, the detailed aspects to our financial decisions. And I was able to go ahead and bring about as far as more of the decision making and things of that sort there too. So combine effort. And here's the thing. You don't need to be an accountant. You don't need to be, have this MBA in finance to do this with your family. The key thing is just having healthy conversations. Right. Right. And then from those conversations, being able to have an understanding of what the family values. So we don't value instant gratification. We value delayed gratification, and making sure that everybody understands that.
Wonderful. I love it. You use this term within your articles and in our conversations as well. Money scripts.
Yes.
What is a money script?
Money scripts. So this was actually created by Dr. Brad Klontz. That's Klontz. In the notes, we can go ahead and make sure to have it. Yes. But so Dr. Brad Klontz from K-State. In his dissertation, he can tell you the story, a lot better than I can there, but it's part of his, overall development into financial therapy and financial counseling. He came up with as far as the idea of money scripts. What he found in as far as his research is that people when it comes to their relationship with money, they follow a script, just kind of like you have a script, a play in a script and things of that sort. They follow 4 different types of scripts at any given moment when it comes to their financial decisions. You're either going to worship money. You're either going to have money status. You're either going to have money vigilance, or you're going to have money avoidance.
Okay.
So when it comes to the idea of money scripts, what I love about that is because it allows you to kind of assess not only as far as your current relationship, but where did you get the current understanding of money from? Right? Where did it originate from? Right. How was it formed? And it allows you to reassess yourself and how you're making money decisions.
I love it. So now that the audience has an understanding of what a money script or what money scripts are, what are some common money scripts you've encountered, and how do they quietly control us as adults?
I would say that more people are willing to admit to money status and money vigilance. Okay. But they will stay away from the ideas of money avoidance and money worship. Okay. Because that's when things get too deep, right? Because when we say money worship, that means that everything you do surrounds around either the having or you don't have in terms of money. Mm-hmm. I can't start the business because I can't get funding. I can't, move from one side of town to the other side of town because of money, or I can't go back to school. Or when you start associating your I's and your me's and so on and so forth too, as far as the how much money you have, when you equate that to as far as a dollar amount, that's a form of money worship.
That's good. I mean, no, that's really good. And I want you all to ponder on what he just said. That because most times when you think about worshiping something,
yes,
people don't contemplate from that perspective, from that angle.
That's that autopilot.
Yeah. So that's very powerful. What you just said and how you laid that out, money worship. And say the latter part again. How you said if your eyes and your means are associated to how much money you have or how much money you need, you're allowing money to determine who you are. That's money worship. Wow.
Don't feel a certain kind of way because, and I can, okay, real quick, because I know we go as far as on time, but think about it like this: name brand clothing, right? If you are not wearing a special brand of clothing, or if you don't have a special kind of, brand that you're associating yourself with, whether it's iPhone or, Gucci or whatever the situation is, because you don't walk around with that, don't think that you have to, when you have to go and pursue those things in order to be relevant, that's an issue.
Absolutely. 100%.
And social media is really big on that. So if I have to look a certain part, be a certain part, again, if it's transmutating, if it's a transmutation, if I have to transform into something that I'm not for the sake of being
accepted,
it becomes a money issue.
Yeah. Wow. And it's a form of money worship.
One thing that I used to always hear my parents say that, like, can we go to McDonald's? You got McDonald's money,
right? Your parent knows mine.
but think about that statement. Even though we understand the context, right? But think about how that word right there shapes into the attitude of a mind that's developing. Do you have McDonald's money? I don't.
Right.
So you don't get a chance to eat McDonald's.
Wow.
Oh, okay. How does that look 15 years in the future? You don't have $1 million. You can't afford to go ahead and start a business. And there's many more examples, but again, money worship, shaping our identities after the idea of money.
That's powerful. I mean, we really could do an episode on that subject alone, money worship, goodness. Really, and further unpack that. But, we won't be doing that today.
Not today. Not today.
I have a few more questions, and there are a few more things I want us to address and unpack in the last about 5 minutes that we have left. But as I told you all, family, Justin will be back because we have much more that we want to unpack. But real quick, I want to transition now to your article, From Sitting on the Islands of Poverty.
Yes.
In that article, you reference people being isolated financially.
Yes.
Okay. Now I want you to unpack that metaphor and inform us of how what you addressed in that article applies today.
Financial isolation. So think about like animals, right? The animal kingdom, the elephants, any animals that herd together, right? Typically, let's particularly with lions. I really like as far as, this concept when it comes to lions, because the lion always has its pack, right? It already has its crew. It's, whatever you want to term that you want to use it in and such. But what I've learned is about, as far as when it comes to the lion, the leader of the pack, and this is the same thing with wolves as well too, is that when they are isolated, that's when the most danger occurs. So the idea of financial isolation is very similar. When you feel like your money situation, you're the only person that has your financial situation, when you're the only one that feels like you have the only financial problems, then you or yourself are exposing yourself to further danger. Because, and it's not so much that you're going to get somebody that's going to come eat you up, but it's going to be the internal dialogues that you have. That's going to be I wish I could, it's going to be those internal dialogues that's going to corrode on your faith. That's going to that's going to get you to a place of financial complacency where you don't want to move. You're comfortable. You're comfortable with the idea of where your financial state is, right?
Or could it be complacency is the outcome of fear as well?
It can be fear. It can be fear. It can be avoidance. It can be all things that don't give life.
Oh, Lord, I didn't bring my bell out. I got my bell in the other part of the room. That was bell worthy.
There you go.
That was bell worthy. Go ahead. Hit that. Well, that just hit me.
So the idea of financial isolation is, here's the thing. You're not alone. When it comes to your credit scores, guess what? You're not alone. Absolutely. When it comes to as far as the money that that's in the bank account and it's acting a little funny, guess what? You're not alone. This is why the idea of normalizing conversations is so important. And we need to bring this into every space, whether it's at home in the kitchen, if it's in as far as the prayer room at the church, or if it's in the barbershop, or wherever, they're like the advent of how are you doing is brought up. If we're having a conversation about how are you doing, we have to be willing to have the courage and the confidence to ask the question, how are you financially doing? Right. Because if you're isolated, do you realize financial isolation is it's because of that. It's one of the biggest reasons why there's divorces, why there's a reason why there's suicides.
Absolutely.
The list continues, right?
Absolutely.
So don't make yourself don't put yourself in a jail of financial isolation and deal with that sentence, deal with the accusations on your own. You have to be willing to open up and have those conversations.
Absolutely. And for many people, unfortunately, it's the conversations around money that is uncomfortable.
It is.
And challenging. But if you fail to confront your challenges or your fears, you'll never conquer them.
Which is another one of those scripts, money avoided.
Yeah.
You run away from the conversations about money.
Absolutely.
The debt collector calls, don't pick up the phone.
Right.
A bill
or if
comes
someone
to the
answers,
mail.
tell them I'm not here.
Right. So you see what happens? Because let's be careful not to, make light of this, because, it's the autopilot, right? I know not to do this because I don't want to deal with money. But the thing is, when you start conditioning your mind, when a financial opportunity comes, how are you going to deal with it? Right. You're going to deal with it in the way that you've conditioned yourself.
Absolutely.
The scripts that you've played all this time.
Absolutely.
If you avoided money, you're going to avoid investing.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
wow.
I love
it. This has been powerful. Last question for this particular episode. For someone who feels financially overwhelmed right now, listening to us, where should they begin to reset their mindset and regain control?
Your resources.
Okay. Now I want y'all to take notes now where he's addressing, if this is you, take notes and go back and listen to this episode 5 times. So, if you are financially overwhelmed, Justin is going to give you some pointers, some tips on how to reset your mindset and regain control. And the first is
just understanding your resources.
Now,
I'm gonna be very mindful as far as the timing and such, but this is very important because I deal with individuals who need money like yesterday all the time. And the very first thing that I always ask them is, okay, let's look at what resources are accessible to you right now.
Okay.
If, like, case in point, if you are, when we talk about financial overwhelm, if you're like 3 days and your rent is due and you don't have that money that you were expecting, or again, even as far as with the Social Security, and if there's any financial situation that was not unplanned and you don't have it to pay for whatever you need so that you continue to live the lifestyle that you have, it goes back to, do you know what your resources are? Can you connect with as far as the resources that are within the city? Can you deal with as far as the resources on the job? Where are your resources at? If you're not, even as far as just understanding that God is our source.
Absolutely.
And that's number one.
Our main source.
Jesus says not to worry about you for tomorrow, right?
That's
For tomorrow will have its more trouble.
Right.
He says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all
go.
these things will be added. And yes, we hear those scriptures all the time. Those are very important. And I pray that, when people, are in those situations, they really take time to not look at those as scriptural band-aids, but they're looking at that as valid sources, a valid source to, to deal with the help that they're needing. Once we've gotten as far as our confirmation, there's a working out with it. There's the friends and family. There's the, organizations that are in the city. There's like plenty, I just know within as far as Tulsa. And I know that, where your listeners are located at, there are places that you can go to for rental assistance. Understand your resources. That's the number one thing.
Wow. Give them one more. So the first thing is understanding your resources. If you are financially overwhelmed, Justin is helping you to, again, restructure your mindset and gain control. It's not the end of the world. It may feel like it is.
Yes.
And we're not negating the pressure that comes with being, we're not negating the pressures that come with experiencing financial difficulty, financial hardship. I think we both have been there.
Yes.
But however, as long as you're still alive, breathing and mobile, there is opportunity for you to regain control and to turn your life right side up.
Let me say one more thing to that.
Yes.
The term capital, or when we say money, another word for money is capital. The word capital comes from the Latin word capitalis. Okay. Capitalis means head of knowledge. So when you say you need money, you're really saying that you need information. You need knowledge.
Yes.
Go seek that first. Whether it starts with your relationship with the Lord, whether it starts with as far as the relationship with the wraparound services that are, affiliated with your job,
community, in your neighborhood. Yeah.
Start with that first. And this goes to as far as the second point. In that second point, you just said it, and the words just slipped my mind there. But it's the fear. Don't tie your emotions to as far as the circumstances. This was what that point was.
Okay.
Don't tie your emotions to your financial situation, because all things financials can be fixed.
Did y'all hear that? All financial situations, regardless of how catastrophic they may be, they can be fixed. And it will definitely take some time. Now, we're not saying, that a quick prayer is gonna fix it. You going through the prayer line, getting greased down with olive oil.
Right.
No, but it can be. That is the operative word, can. But go ahead.
It can be, and it's about as far as your decisions and what expectations you have. If you have high expectations of yourself, then I can't imagine you, want to do Uber or anything of that particular sort to make things circumvent. So it's just an understanding that we have to take away our emotions and understand, like, okay, it's a game of either increasing my money or decreasing how I'm spending it. But if I can understand that balance, my financial situation can be fixed. And yes, it will take time. Right. But guess what? It takes time to actually get there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. I know you all have enjoyed this. I'm telling you, Justin, I am grateful again that you took time to be with me and my listeners on today. And he's coming back. We're not done. We're not done. Today's conversation, as you have heard, wasn't just about money. It primarily was about your mindset, your understanding as it pertains to money. We confronted the lies of scarcity, unmasked inherited money scripts, and reclaimed stewardship as a kingdom assignment. Now, of course, we didn't exhaust any of these subjects. We just touched them, addressed them, and kept going. But we'll be back next week in regards to the next installment of this episode. And if you take nothing else from this particular episode, I want you to remember this: money will either drift or discipline based on your decisions.
Yes.
So this week, here's your challenge for this week: to sit down, get honest with yourself,
yes,
and ask yourself, what have I believed about money that needs to be replaced with truth? Your financial future isn't waiting on more income. It's waiting on more clarity and courage. Because as we said in the onset, it's not about what you actually make. It's about what you're doing with what you're bringing in.
Yes.
All right. So I thank you for joining me on today. I thank my guest, Justin. Very quickly inform our listeners of how they can get in contact with you. And again, his information and the articles that we mentioned will be in the show notes, but inform our listeners how they can contact you for those institutions, universities that may want to invite you to speak and to help bring their student body into a better understanding of financial wealth.
Yes. So the best way to contact me and stay updated on as far as articles that I've written is on LinkedIn. You can just simply find me by Justin L. Enlow. That's ENLOW. You'll see it in the show notes. And then also too, you can reach me by email. Simply justin@1242consulting.com.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining me on today's episode of Empower Your Thinking. I truly appreciate you being a part of this journey. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to take a moment to rate and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps the podcast grow and empowers more listeners like you. As a thank you for leaving a review, you will receive a free audio teaching on preparation, a key to success, which you can download from the link in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. For more updates and to connect with me directly, you know what to do. Follow me on Instagram at IEmpowerLives. Visit my website at IEmpowerLives.online or email me with any thoughts, questions, or feedback about today's episode at info@ctjohnson.org. Your thoughts are valuable to me, and I look forward to engaging with you more and more. Thank you again for your support. Until our next episode, remember that a changed life is the consequence of an empowered mind.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Empower Your Thinking. Remember, a changed life is the consequence of an empowered mind. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast for more inspiring content that fuels your journey to unlock your full potential. And for daily empowerment, follow host CT Johnson on Instagram at IEmpowerLives. Join us next week as we continue this voyage of self-discovery, uncovering the keys to a more empowered and fulfilled life.